I'm 30 years old. This happened 2 years ago. I work in a marketing company and I travel a lot. My ex-boyfriend never went with me on any of my business trips and would either stay at our apartment or go stay with his friends or his parents. I didn't know about it at the time, but my ex-boyfriend and my sister were having an affair together. I found out a week after he proposed to me. My sister came to me and confessed that she and my ex-boyfriend were having an affair. She said that she felt awful and couldn't tell anyone about it, but she didn't want me to make a mistake getting engaged to him. She kept blaming him for getting close to her and manipulating her, and said that it was a one-time thing, but it developed quickly when he started telling her lies and trying to turn her against me. Said she never wanted for things to happen like that, but she found herself trapped. I was in disbelief and in denial. I wanted to figure out what was going on my own, but I eventually confronted him with what my sister said. My ex's reaction was expected. He lost it and started yelling. He told me my sister was harassing him and kept showing up at our apartment knowing I wasn't there, and she crossed huge lines. He said that she was guilty and wasn't going to tell me ever. But the only reason why my sister told me was because he said he'd expose her to my whole family, and so she decided to act like she was innocent and that it was all his fault. They both threatened each other, but she was the first to tell. It was too much to handle. I had no idea who came on to who. In my eyes, they were both dead that day. I left the apartment and gave him back his ring. And he didn't stop calling me and begging me to talk for weeks. My parents didn't know what really happened. My sister didn't want me to tell them and said that I should just let it go. I did eventually tell them after they kept berating me for breaking off my engagement after a week. Then I cut contact when they defended her and blamed me for bringing my ex into their lives. They started taking care of her, therapy and whatnot, while I was blamed and yelled at. I had to cut contact because I was losing my mind and couldn't handle all this pressure. 8 months later, I heard that my sister and my ex got together. My mom told me, and what really broke me was that my mom and dad no longer hated him and allowed my sister to see him. In 2 months, they got engaged, but they'd done it quietly. I moved 3 hours away. I remained in no contact with everyone except for a close friend of mine who knew my family as well. It's been a year since I left my hometown, and recently my mom reached out to me via my friend and drove 3 hours to see me. She told me about my sister and brought a letter from her since I deleted her number and blocked her on all social media. My mom told me that my sister has been having issues with my ex after they found out she was pregnant and that Ahol didn't want to step up and be a parent. She said that he canceled the wedding because he didn't want the baby. He made a condition to marry her after she got an abortion, but she decided to keep it. They broke it off after this fight, and now my sister is living with my parents and wanting to have the baby. My mom cried and talked about how depressed and alone my sister is feeling. She begged me to be open and communicate with her and try to work things out with her before the baby is born, so that I can get a chance to be a good aunt. I reminded her of whose baby this is, and she corrected me, saying it was my sister's baby since my ex won't take responsibility. She assured me that my sister admitted she was wrong by trusting this jerk and bringing him to our lives again, but wants me back into her life and to be a good family like before. My mom demanded an answer right away, but I told her to give me some time to think. I felt lost and confused. I cried when I read my sister's letter. It was obvious she was desperate to reach out to me and sounded very sincere. It's too much for me, and I can't get past what happened and couldn't help feeling mad whenever I think about it. What should I do in this situation? My sister is 24 years old and doesn't have a job to support herself and the baby, so I'm not sure if she wants me back in her life so I can support her and her baby. They tried to guilt one another and blame who came onto who. It doesn't matter who came onto who, they are both guilty. To be honest, I think I dodged a bullet because my boyfriend sounds like a huge a-hole. But in my opinion, she should keep no contact with her family. They can't be trusted, especially since OP thinks herself that they want her back in their life because they want her to support the sister and the baby. So, my advice would be no contact. Let's go to the second story, guys. It's a long one, so listen to the end to hear my insights. Enjoy. Story 2. My 29 male ex 26 female left me almost 2 years ago because I couldn't have children. Now, 2 years later, she is back with some other guy's baby wanting me to be the father. To me, this is all forms of messed up. I understand why she left. I can't now, nor will I ever be able to produce children. I've known this from a very early age, and I told her within a week of us being a couple so she wouldn't be surprised and could get out of it if she wanted. However, she claims it doesn't bother her and that maybe someday we could adopt. We were together for almost 3 years when she told me that even though she loved me and wanted to spend her life with me, that it had been weighing on her because she wanted to be a mother and not an adoptive mother. I was sad, of course, never really got over it to be honest with you, but I knew the right thing to do was to let her go. Initially, we tried to keep in contact and I would answer her text from time to time, but I had to stop following her Instagram because she started posting photos of her and different guys, but then down to just one guy. I could not take it, so I stopped. I haven't texted or spoken to her for over a year and, honestly, had lost track of her. My phone rings and it's from an unknown caller, so I let it go to voicemail, and when I listened to it, sure enough, it was her. She was begging me to call her, that she really needed to talk to me and she needed my help. So I called back the number she left and she answered right away. She stated that because of everything being shut down that she desperately needed a place to stay for a while. She said she would explain all of the circumstances if she could come over. Now I know for a fact her family is on the other side of the country. I know this from when I was with her, so she does not have family to rely on for this. I said that I was hesitant about this, but would let her stay for a short time until she gets a place to go to. She showed up at my door the other day, pulling a large suitcase with one hand and a baby in the other. Needless to say, I was a little stunned by this, but I didn't say anything because of what was there to say. She was very happy to see me, and she introduced me to her son and told me how old he was. I just smiled and said he was a cute kid. She comes in and sits her stuff down, and I ask her what her plans were and how long she thought she would need to stay. Well, between being on maternity leave and now this crap that is going around, she lost her job because the company had closed down. She is hoping once this is over, they will bring her back, but there is no real guarantee of this. She then decides to lay this one on me. She said that the father of the child was not someone she ever loved or had any interest in being with, and for that matter, he didn't like her either. He is an older guy, a little over 40, who is very well off, and that her son will not want for anything. I took this time to ask why he wasn't providing them a place to stay, and this is when she hit me with this. She never stopped loving me. She still loves me, and she said she had found someone who would agree to being a part-time parent, but able to take care of their child's financial needs. She said he knew all about me and how she wanted to be with me, and he encouraged her to come back to me. We talked for several hours, and I told her that for now, I would be happy to put her up for a couple of days while we figure out what to do from here. In the meantime, she has given me the name, phone number, and address of the father of her child and has been encouraging me to call him and ask him anything, and that he will support her story about wanting to be with me. I have so far declined. I don't know what to think or do here. On one hand, she broke my heart, but I never blamed her for it. She had a right to have a natural child, and I couldn't do it, so it hurts, but I get it. But this entire situation is messed up in my mind. What kind of man lets his child be raised by someone else willingly and still be willing to pay for almost 100% of the child's care? Now here's the other part. While I never blame her for what she chose, how the hell does she reconcile still always loving me while actively finding sex partners to have a child with? Why did we not try adoption or getting a donor? How do I reconcile sitting at home the past 2 years heartbroken, particularly now that she has said she has always loved me? What about the kid? Isn't this going to mess him up? I mean, what would I be to him? It sounds like the dad still wants to be a dad on occasion, so what am I? I mean, I will never have a child of my own, so this honestly is the closest I will probably ever get, and the kid is not even a year old, so it would be almost like a family. Do I call and talk to the guy? Do I entertain this idea? Or do I tell her to take her child and go stay with the father and try to get on with my life? This has messed me up because I have not moved on, to be honest with you. I've dated her, but they are all very pale shadows of her. I will admit that having her here and even the baby has made me happier than I have been in a long time. Being in lockdown, so to speak, has really been lonely, so this has helped. But I don't want to make a mistake either or hurt either of us going forward. I just find it very weird, guys. I don't think I would take her back in OP place, to be honest. She abandoned him 2 years ago and now came back saying that she still loves him. What kind of love is that? If she loved OP so much, why didn't she consider other options of having a baby? For example, finding a donor. She didn't try to solve the problem, just left OP and looked like went to sleep around with guys. I don't think this is the only opportunity for OP to have a family. He can still find a woman with a child, even a newborn. I just think you never know in life. Story 3. I decided before anything else was decided, I should at least try and hear what the guy had to say. So I called the number she gave me on Sunday afternoon and it went to voicemail. Left him my name and number to call me back with a very brief description of what I was calling about. Looked up all of the info I could find about him on social media. I found his Facebook and LinkedIn account. He's not very active on Facebook, but did have a few photos doing things over the past few years. His LinkedIn pretty much confirmed what she was saying about what he does. In the meantime, she and I had been talking about the wheres and the whys. I finally decided on Saturday night that I was not going to hide how bad her leaving me was anymore, so I kind of laid it out for her. She was obviously upset but kept mostly calm. She had a reason for everything that I'm sure in her mind made sense. But as I told her, not being a part of the decision-making was not cool for me. I think she understood that and apologized for it. He finally called me back early Sunday evening, and he and I talked for probably about a half an hour. His story is pretty similar to the one she is stating. He said that at best there was a strong friendship between the two of them and that there was never any romantic relationship. He said the child was on purpose, she did not trap him. Yes, he still wants to be a father to the child, but with his choice of careers and lifestyles, he knew he was not going to be ready to be a full-time father for years to come. He stated that the financial agreement between the two of them would be that he would be willing to pay for any and all medical needs, a weekly amount of money paid to the mother until the child was 18, full tuition to college, and a trust fund that would be made available to the child after he turns 23. He then went on to tell me that he has known about me since he first met her, that she made it very clear that ultimately she wanted to come back to me. He had encouraged her to contact me a long time ago and was really surprised that I did not know anything about any of this. As to custody, he said he wanted every other holiday and 1 weekend a month plus 2 weeks in the summer, and on occasion a little longer time, but that was negotiable. I know this was a strange request, but I asked to FaceTime with him just to verify he was the same guy who was listed in the photos. He thought it was odd and unnecessary, but he did it. Yes, it was the same guy. After talking with him, she thought that I would be content and happy, seeing as how he pretty much confirmed what she said. I told her this morning that I was not ready to be involved in this. I just find the entire thing weird. I'm still pissed that she chose to go sleep around to find the guy to have her baby with and then think I'm going to be all happy and excited to help her raise their kid. She had no answer for me when I asked why we didn't try to find a donor or something other than just abandoning me for almost 2 years. I told her that I wasn't completely ruling out getting back together, but just now is not the right time. I'm still way too hurt about her not sharing any of this with me. She has a friend that has taken her in. I know she is very emotional. And well, so am I, to be honest with you. I just can't do this right now, and honestly, I don't think I ever will. I love her. Well, I love the girl I knew, but to just up and leave like that without talking to me or even looking at other options. Not to mention not contacting me and then just showing up one day at my door with a baby in tow. She could have contacted me. She knew where I lived. If you want the truth, I believe she just went out to run around and then decided one day to have a baby and settle down, and she thought that was going to be with me. In the end, I'm still broken up by this. It took me a long while where I didn't think about her every single damn day. And then she just shows up and makes my life miserable again. I think OP made a good decision for not taking her back. No sane human being would do this to their significant other and have such little compassion or regret for what they did. There are major underlying issues here. There is literally no way to justify what she did. Story 4. Backstory. My sister, 13, female, and I had the same babysitter, Amy, while we were growing up, from when I was 6 until I was 11, when she went from being my babysitter to, essentially, my stepmom. From what my dad, a 50 male, has told me, my mom and Amy started an affair when my mom was 38 and Amy was 22. And my mom left my dad a year later and started dating Amy. I'm 17 now and my mom and Amy are still together. They never got married, but they're common law or whatever. My dad has 2 weekends a month with my sister and I, and the rest of the time I spend with Amy and my mom. It's gross. I like Amy. She's nice and we get along well. We always have. But there's a difference between liking someone because they took care of you as kids and then being your stepmom. She's never overstepped her boundaries or anything. She doesn't try to replace my dad or act as my parent. But the idea of her and my mom together makes me sick. There's a bigger age difference between my mom and Amy than between Amy and I. I can't really even be in the same room as them together now or apart. My mom and Amy have noticed this, but I refuse to talk to them about it. Do I leave this alone? Do I talk to them? Do I just try to move on with my life? I didn't like it when I was younger and I don't like it now. I need advice on how to deal with this. Edit. My dad doesn't want me or my sister to live with him. He has twins and a son by his new wife, and his new wife doesn't like me or my sister. I think OP needs to talk to her mother. And the best solution would be to go see a therapist. Holding on to anger is just going to degrade OP quality of life, especially if she holds on to it for years. Ideally, she'll be able to feel better about everything, or at least less angry by the time she finishes high school, so that she can enjoy her first years as a true adult and focus on setting up the rest of her life. I think no one should be afraid to seek help. I talked to my mom. It was hard and we both cried. And she told me that no matter what, she loved me and wanted to put my best interest first. She found a therapist that we could go to together if I wanted to and told me she'd be willing to do whatever as long as me and my sister were happy. We decided that Amy was going to go and spend about 2 weeks visiting her sister and nephew while we tried to figure out what to do next. She left 4 days ago and my mom, my sister and I have been spending a lot of time together talking and being open with each other. I took the advice given in the comments and it really helped a lot. I haven't spoken to my dad. I'm not really interested in talking to him and I skipped my weekend with him to spend some time with my mom. I really do think I'm going to be okay. After talking to this therapist, I realized that I wasn't actually angry with my mom and Amy. I was angry because my dad used that as an excuse to abandon my sister and I obviously My mom and Amy didn't help, but my dad has always told me how awful and disgusting they are, and I really internalized that. I think that's it. I'm happy to answer any questions. And I can't thank this community enough for helping me broach this subject with my mom. Edit. My dad had 50/50 custody for a few months, but he worked very long hours and couldn't deal with my sister and I for every other week, so he asked my mom to split it, so she was responsible for us most of the time. He wrote my sister and I off entirely once he found out about my mother and Amy, and makes no effort to be an active father for either of us. My dad didn't want custody of us, views me and my sister as the products of his mistake, and barely sends us a text on our birthday. I am not abandoning my dad. My sister told me that when she got home from their weekend that my dad was relieved that he only had to deal with one kid. Obviously this is a complicated situation, but I am not choosing my mom over him because I'm drinking the Kool-Aid.